What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheetape. We're talking another week of PGA golf. My AKA my sort of savior this season, just in my mental state. The fact that I've been winning most of the time at golf has been sort of saving sports I usually do well at, not doing quite as well. Sheets, yeah. What are your sort of overall thoughts on this tournament? We have some actual real golfers this week that we know their names, which is nice.
We do. And as far as me, like last week, I played 20 lineups in FanDuel and one in the Monster. I played 20 lineups in DraftKings and one in the Monster there. I cashed in a grand total of one lineup and it got second in the Monster on FanDuel. So that was good enough. Anyway, this week, my overall view on the slate is that actually the way builds are working for me right now, it's lending me to get at least one top guy, maybe two in most lineups. That's kind of new for the way I usually end up playing, but that's just the way it's going for me. There's some really good 7K plays, which kind of makes that possible. As usual, we're going to spend a lot of time probably at that range. That's my initial take.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's guys to like at the top. So I guess that we'll start it off with this. Let me just write down.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah. Let's put your screen up. So let's talk through the tiers. Why don't you tell me who you like the most at the top?
Yeah. So over 10K, I actually like three guys better than the others. And it's weird. So the guy who's showing up in my work, which basically reflects what all the models are showing, you get it. And it's like, if you didn't know anything about how to do this, you would say, is this really possible? But Abraham Answer is showing up as a significantly better play than say Justin Thomas or Victor Hovland, given their price. And in a matter of, and he's projected to be like the highest owned guy on the slate too. And to me, that's just instinctively just feels wrong. You know what I mean? He's showing up for me as similarly like a better play, but man, I don't know. In my actual builds, thankfully, I'm not just jamming him in. I'm getting probably an equal amount in the end of all three of those guys between Answer, Thomas, and Hovland. One you do have going for you if you're playing narratives. You have Answer playing in Mexico, I think, which means probably nothing. Except maybe
I think that stuff. I mean, so far that stuff. I mean, from my experience in golf, it matters, but people's maybe it doesn't matter as much people's perception, but it definitely seems to matter. I mean, we've seen consistently these things happening.
Yeah. So I got all those three: Answer, Thomas, and Hovland. Like when you look at my sheets, they're not going to rate all that great, but it doesn't matter because when you actually run the stuff, you're going to want to get those raw points in there. So for me, it's going to be either Answer, Thomas, Hovland, some combination of those three, and I'm away from the other guys. I'm away from Koepka, Horschel, Hatton, and Finau.
That's essentially where I am as well. I have Answer number 1, and I have Thomas number 2, and I have Hovland number 3.
Okay.
That's what I've got right now, and I think they're all going to be pretty highly owned. So
yeah.
I don't have a way off the board take. If I was gonna pick one of the other guys, it'd probably be Hatton for me, but don't have a really strong take. I do have one take though of a guy in the next range, and I guess I can start off the next one and just to go with. I do love Scotty Scheffler, and I think that if you're going to spend up at 2 spots, I think using Scheffler at a little lower ownership than the double, if you had to try and squeeze in JT and Answer, I think Scheffler is an awesome way to go. I also like Aaron Wise just beneath Scheffler, a little more than we're used to paying for Wise, but he's really coming into his own, really strong. And then I've got the other 2 guys who I really like, Matt Wolfe and Zalatoris. And those guys will all be the ones I'm playing. I won't be really touching the other guys.
Yeah, it's kind of a dead range for me with the exception of the first guy you mentioned. So Scheffler, I do have him. And again, what I did was first thing I do is I run my projections. I run 150 lines to see what I'm going to get before I adjust for ownership and all that stuff. And I'm getting Scheffler like a decent amount, which makes sense, right? Because I said at the beginning that the higher price guys are going to get into my lineups more often than the mid-range guys. So I am getting the Scheffler just to kind of steal a take, only because it's from the free video. I think what's his name, Rick, went on for like 15 minutes about why Wise is a good play. Not he's a good fantasy producer. He gets birdies, and his one issue had been his putter, which apparently he's worked out. So Wise also, he's just to let you guys know, he also does get a lot of ownership, like more than people would think he would get. He would be the next guy. But for me, my initial runs, I'm getting very, very little from this range. I'm getting Scheffler, and that's pretty much it.
Can I ask why no love for Matt Wolfe?
No, none, no disdain for him. He's
Right.
just not making it into the builds.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I play him, then it's hard to get, you know what I mean? Then it's harder to get those top guys. But nothing particularly wrong with that, and nothing particularly wrong with Zalatoris either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think actually Zalatoris is going to be probably higher owned than Wolf, just because it feels wrong that Zalatoris should be cheaper. But I could certainly make the case that Wolf's a better play than Zalatoris.
Yeah, Matt Wolfe's projections are god awful. I'll just say I don't believe in any of this stuff with Matt Wolfe. What I do believe in any of the negative stuff with him. He fell apart. He went back, and then he came back and just was right back in form. Switched back to his old clubs, and has since then has a 17th and a second in his 2 tournaments. So I definitely have some interest in Matt Wolfe when he's not going to project as well. I actually think he ends up lower owned even than people are projecting. So I am going to keep riding the Matt Wolfe is a better golfer than people think he is. But that's it for me in this range. Why don't you start off the 8K range?
So the 8K range, I have like 5 guys I want to talk about. The guy who's like dominating the models, and who's going to be,
Keegan Bradley,
20% owned, is Russell Henley.
Oh, Henley, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So he's going to be the most popular. He might be the most popular. It could be the most popular on the slate because those top guys are going to get a lot of ownership.
Yeah.
But he's popping in all the models, and he's going to be owned as a result of it. And I certainly can't disagree with it, except for the fact of the ownership. Next guy I have is a little higher up, and he's going to be pretty owned too. I think people are owning these guys pretty efficiently this week. Is Matt Fitzpatrick at 8,800, and then a guy who then 2 other guys. One is everybody, Mito Pereira, 8,100. He's going to be close to 20%. His numbers just continue to look really good. So I'll give you 2 guys that are a little, just not quite there, but are going to be lower owned. One, you've had success with this guy recently, is Keegan Bradley. And I haven't played him, but he's been doing much better. And another guy who I just don't like, I don't like playing these like not older, he's not old, but kind of like these older name guys, is Sergio Garcia. Looks to be pretty decent. And he is initially projecting for me to be about 5-6%. So if you're looking for something a little different in this range, I would play Sergio here at 5%. So that's the extent of my 8K. But Henley's going to pop as like the optimizer play, and Mito is always going to get his ownership. But he's been looking better for me recently, as you guys know. I was off him for all those weeks, and last week he finally showed up for me to the point where I actually even played him as an outright to win. Didn't quite do it, but whatever. I'll go back to him a little bit this week. But again, when it comes to building, I mean, you want to make sure you don't just play all the chalk guys together.
Yeah, this is I have a couple. You mentioned some of it. I'm fine with Fitz, but I prefer Mito. My favorite play in this range is Keegan Bradley.
Oh, nice.
And then I like Sergio as well, actually. I've been talking to a couple of my friends who, one of them is a big golf guy and is convinced that this is the year Sergio launches himself back into at least the top 15 in golfers in the world.
Ooh, I like that.
So I thought that, I was like, okay, well, it's good to know. He was going through, I think he went through a rough divorce over the last couple of years, and then just sort of we haven't really seen as much of him, but as a guy, if he gets back on track, he might be the guy we'd be paying 11K for in this kind of a tournament by the end of the season. So that was something I just had stuck in my brain. All right, 7K range. Do you want me to start, or do you want to get going?
Whatever, go for it.
Okay, so Neiman is my favorite one. No shocker. He's going to be popular. He is way too cheap, in my opinion. He would be number 1 for me. Seamus Powers would be number 2 for me in this range. Carlos Ortiz would be number 3. I'm just going to do 7,500 and over because it's too many names to go through all of them. And the guy who I like that's off the board is sort of going against that, what you were saying, not loving to play the older guys. I'll play the older guys when I feel like there's value. And I think 7,900 for Justin Rose is cheap enough to where we should probably consider getting some shares of him. It would certainly not surprise me if he went out and won this or any tournament. And I think he's a little bit too cheap, but I like all of those guys quite a bit. You can have Emmanuel Grillo if you want, Emiliano Grillo if you want.
So we're counting 7,500 as this range, 7,500.
I was just going 7,500 up because I couldn't get to all my guys for under 7K on the same page.
So I'll just stick to this part of the announcement, 7,500 up. So this is kind of interesting. I want to talk about Ian Poulter for a minute, and it's, you know, again, I don't know where all the models come up with their stats, their strokes gains, and they sense the momentum or whatever. But if you guys remember, on October 7th, I kind of out of nowhere said that I think I'm going to basically be locking in Ian Poulter, and I'm really not happy about it because I don't like playing guys like this, you know, the older guys, that whatever it is. But I was going to trust where my models were taking me, and I played almost like 80% of him, and he missed the cut, right? Mm-hmm. Which, okay, it happens. But dude, the very next round, next week, he came in with a T18, you know? Mm-hmm. So maybe there's something to his game that's been turning around that I think we need to consider. And once again, he's showing up as actually my top play, 7,500 to 7,900. So I'm going to throw him in there. And then Emmanuel Grillo is the next guy between 7,500 and 7,900.
Of course, you got to say Grillo.
And then I actually have Neiman behind those guys. So and at 18% ownership, I actually am going to probably prioritize Poulter and Grillo, even though Grillo is going to get owned too. I think, well, maybe not so much. People love so much fun.
No, I know, and he always gets owned still.
Yeah, he does. But well, that's his profile. You know, people are just waiting for that round, right? And he throws it up there once in a while. Yeah, so I like Poulter, I like Grillo, and I like Neiman in the 7,500 and up range.
Wow, So no, what were you gonna say?
Oh, so I was gonna say, if you had another comment on that, or do you want to go to the 7K?
No, I think that's interesting because I really didn't come up with either of those guys at all. But you know, I have them. I'll make a note on my list for them. But I was
put them in a couple just because. You know?
Yeah, I don't know how many I'm gonna play, but I just like the Ortiz. I like the upside of all these other guys. Just and I even like the ownership. I mean, nobody's playing Woodland. Why is no one playing? Like, I know some people are gonna play Ortiz, but I actually think that's one I would like to actually probably get more of. You want to use.
That's a good little. That's a rich play too. He was talking for about 15 minutes about him also.
Yeah, that I just don't understand how he's being a little bit overlooked this week, and also it's I mean, if we want to use countries as an advantage, why isn't he one of them? So Johnny Vegas is going to grade out as a really good play in the next range, down to 7K to 7,500. I think Johnny Vegas and Patrick Rogers are both good plays. Johnny Vegas is actually getting a little less ownership than he usually does when he's down this cheap. So I'm going to have a little bit of interest in him. Brian Harmon, Pat Perez, Kevin Streelman are my other guys in this range.
My top rated play on the slate is Kevin Streelman at 7,200.
Yep.
He's going to get ownership. And that's the way it is usually. My second favorite in this range is the guy you touched on, is Brian Harmon. And then another guy who's, again, no secret, he's going to get probably a little bit of ownership, but at 7K flat, makes a lot work, is Joel Damon. And then a guy I just don't think is going to win me GPPs, even though I think he did better for you than for me, is Brendan Todd. But at 6-7%, maybe it's worth maybe worth to just kind of like firm up your lineup a little bit. He'll make the cut, and he'll put up something. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I guess if you're a real expert, you'll know how to put your lineups together with aggressive players and non-aggressive players together, like we know how to do in the NBA. But I will say that he does rate to be a good play. So for me, it's Streelman, then Harmon, then Damon, then Todd.
All right. How about down in the 6K range? What do you got?
I got 3. Rating as the number 3 play overall on a points per dollar basis to go with some of these 10Ks is world famous Ches Reavie at 6,600.
Definitely can get behind that.
Throw it in there. Next guy is an old friend from previous slates a while ago, dipping below 7K at 6,700, Mr. Chris Kirk. You know, it wasn't too long ago that he was like an overpriced 9K.
Right.
Like in kind of a weak field, but not that much weaker than this. And then I don't know if you mentioned him, but we played him last week. I know I did. Was Brian Stewart at 6,300, 2% owned, whatever. So for me, Reeve, but I'll tell you, man, this Kirk at 6,700 could be something. That could be interesting, and he's going to be 10% probably too. It's not going to be no.
Yeah, no, I like the
You put a guy that people have played before under 7K. I'm sure people are going to play. Yeah. So for me, Reeve, Kirk, Stewart, and I don't want to play Kyle Stanley. That's pretty much it.
I have the same. The first two I had Reeve and Kirk as my
Nice.
two of my preferred. My other two main ones are Ryan Palmer.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm going to go back to the general.
Yes.
I need to stay a little bit on brand, even though he's not been ideal for me.
He's under 7K though. I mean,
I know. And two other, if you want to get, or three other, if you want to get weird names: Derek Higo, Vince Whaley, and Steven Yeager. But I'm not going to be playing those guys. They're just popping up a little bit for me. And I'll even throw in one more, and that's Rory Sabatini.
I'm telling you, it's so weird the way golf works. I know that form can go in and out or whatever, but I want to just compare two guys. It wasn't too long ago that I was playing all the Billy Horschel at 7,100. Okay. And we were figuring out whether Chris Kirk was a good play at 9K or not at ownership, you know? I don't think that either of those two guys' golf game has changed all that much in the last 6 months. Okay. I'm not, I just use those two as an example. And, there's another guy who I didn't get to him, but Charlie Hoffman, he's now down to 7,700.
Everybody's darling from
from
last year was another, before, Hoffman 7,900, you said?
He's 7,700.
I actually didn't have him on my list, but I didn't.
I didn't either. All of a sudden he's not doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like it's
well, Zach Johnson made the most cuts in a row last year in the tour,
right.
200. Doc Redman, who was everyone's beloved everything for a while, when a year ago, now nobody plays him and he's 6,300. You know what I mean?
And excuse me, Aaron Wise was 6,800 just a few months ago.
Hank Lebioda, or Leboida, however we want to pronounce it, everybody was playing at the mid-tier guy. And now no one will play him at 6,200, and no one's going to play Danny McCarthy at 6,200. This is a tournament, and I made this point to Kenny the other day about the last tournament. I was like, I've never, when we were done with our golf lineups, I was like, I've never played a tournament so much in my life where I felt like playing anybody over 10% might be wrong, because it was a really weird tournament last week. This week you've got some studs in there, but maybe error on that side is what I would say, especially if you're playing the long shot tournaments. Take some of these names that maybe we don't love as much, and prioritize them, because there's really not a whole lot of difference, as Sheets is mentioning, between these guys. And the weird part is, oftentimes in every sport, but it seems to happen more so in golf, guys, as they get priced up, tend to be owned more. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because people are like, oh, I've got the money now, I can play this guy. It's just interesting. Anyway, let's go. Let's play the game. Let's do it. I'll let you go first here, and then who is winning this tournament?
Victor Hoffman.
Okay, so you're gonna make me try and double pay up. Okay, and it feels really weird not to just say JT over when it comes to just JT and Answer, who finally got a win, and JT's got 7 million wins. But I would put it between those guys, and I will give the edge to Answer.
Okay.
And then who do we like in the 9K for the top fives? I know you're gonna take, or below 10K, I should say. It doesn't matter if it's 9K or not.
Below 10K. In the top 5, I'm gonna have to take him. I'm gonna go with Sheffield.
Yeah, I like that call. That's what I would have done too. I'm going to go out on a limb, but I'm also it's gonna come with a disclaimer. I'm gonna say Matt Wolfe, but I'm not saying.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say though, if you play 100 lineups, I don't think you should have Matt Wolfe in 60 of them. I think you should have him in 20 to 25 of them or something if you really like him. I think these guys are all fairly close, but I believe in Wolfe's upside. I'm going to continue to try and be basically every time we do a show, until I see that something's completely changed, I'm going to keep trying to get double the field on Wolfe. So I do have Wolfe, but I could have just as easily said Zalatoris here and felt good about it. So that's where I'm at. How about the next range, top 10 or anywhere to top 10 under 9K?
Top 10 under 9K. Yeah, I'll stick to my models here. I will go with Russell Henley.
All right, I'll take Keegan Bradley.
Okay.
And
under 8K to make the top 20.
I'll go Joaquin Niemann.
And I will go Kevin Streelman.
That's who my other guy would have been. So we are definitely in line on this one.
And make the cut.
You get to go first on that one because I've got to find my Streelman love. I have a.
For me, it's pretty clear. It's either going to be Reeve or Kirk, but I have to think Kirk's going to make the cut. I'm going to say Chris Kirk.
I like the Chris Kirk. Even though it's not a cut maker guy per se, I'm going to stay on brand and say Patton Kazire.
Okay.
Get a little bit weird. I just as easily said Reeve, but you already mentioned him, so figured I'd say Kazire. And hey, these guys have been doing pretty good. One other name that was not mentioned that I do have notes on that I just forgot because we were scrolling through so many guys in 7K range that I would like to throw in because he had sort of a rough start to last week and sort of faded out, but has been really, really good lately and looked in his best form we've seen in years as Adam Hadwin.
Okay.
So just throwing that out there. All right, well, guys, there's the answers for you. JT, somewhere JT Hovland and what's it called? Show up for me at the top. Scheffler and especially my main guy. I don't even know why I can't find him for some reason. Oh, Answer. And then I really like this, Neiman, Ortiz, Vegas, Mito Pereira, Kirk, Kazire, Reeve. I think you can. Those are the value guys that I'll be mixing in with my high spend ups. I'm
very glad the guy your golf guru is into is not necessarily into, but he made some positive comments on Sergio Garcia's prospects.
Yeah, I think there is something that we should keep tracking this, and so I do have. And by the way, I'll give away a little something. The guy, one of his closest friends, and the guy who used to be his psychologist / swing coach, kind of a guy, was the one who told him when we were first playing DFS, hey, don't be touching this guy because it was a few years ago, first golf DFS for me, and he was saying you can't touch Sergio right now. He's going through hell. So
really,
yep, and feels very differently now. Let's put it that way. So I don't know how reliable all this is. I trust the guy. That's as far as I'm going to go, but it's good enough of a reason to give you a little bit of a extra good feeling about playing the guy.
Yep.
And all right, guys. Well, good luck to everybody this week. Hopefully, we can crush it, and somebody can show something down. Sheets included. Sheets in addition to sheets. Somebody pull the sheets out there, and let's see the leaderboard. Hopefully, we have a fun sweat going into the weekend, and then even more fun sweat on Sunday. Good luck, everybody.